The medium and opportunity for you. Make your contribution, let them know. Democracy in Spice Isles is alive and well. Ask you questions, sing and beat you drum. Make you suggestions, encourage them on to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion, and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual issues too, agricultural, environmental, and trending to subject matter. We fear none, we back down. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the land. God, we freedom, jealous and they in Cuba, Russians and Chinese and lucky like we. Right now, North Korea, wish they had it too. Most of the Caribbean, lucky like we. Studio Galaxy Day for you and me. Galaxy Equalizer, ready like Freddy. And Studio Galaxy 473 in Confero. We freedom of speech is sacrosanct. Make use of it. Let no one challenge. Blow your shell, beat your drum, tell others. Like and share, subscribe and discuss it too. Let the world know Studio Galaxy is around. Galaxy in Confero, hope you know. 473 standing strong is yours, you know. The medium, an opportunity for you. Make your contribution, let them know. Blow your shell, beat your drum, tell others. Like and share, subscribe and discuss it too. Let the world know Studio Galaxy is a road. Russians and Chinese and lucky like we. Iran and North Korea wish they had it too. Most of the Caribbean lucky like we. Studio Galaxy Day for you and me. Blow your shell, beat your drum, tell others. Like and
Welcome again to the second part of our program on Saturday. You are with the Galaxy Equalizers and you're on Studio Galaxy 473. We always encourage you to subscribe to our program, like our program, and share our program. We discuss issues because we want to provoke Grenadians and our brothers and sisters in the diaspora, anywhere else, to discuss issues. In a democracy, it's important. It makes no sense saying, I didn't know, I didn't understand. You have an issue, ask questions, and discuss it. The number to call is 536-2558. The topic this morning is it reasonable to believe that the government of Grenada is on an evil path? We have had 3 years of the government. And in democracy, election comes anytime after 3 years. If you call election 4 years, you call it Oli. So about 4.5 years after government win election and in governance, you expect them to call election. Anything earlier than that is Oli. In our democratic system, the Prime Minister has the authority to call election when he wants, within the 5 years and 3 months, I believe, after the first parliament meeting. So we have had 3 years to understand, to cipher out, to look at what the government is doing and determine what trajectory, what path the government is taking. The first issue, people say, give them 100 days. Because 100 days is an American culture thing. But we like to adopt whatever in America, we adopt it. So we adopt the 100 days. And people say 1 year is too soon to say what you're saying about the government. And they say, well, just 2 years. But after 3 years, there is no one in Grenada now could say the time is not correct to come up with an opinion about the government. And my question is it reasonable to believe that this government is on an evil path? I have never said that about any other government. Not the Gary government. The revolution was a bunch of criminals. But it was about ideology. I did not even use the word evil for them. Then you had succeeding governments post 1983. But this government, led by Deacon Mitchell, this version of the NDC, is it reasonable for someone to consider them on an evil path? And I speak a lot to NDC supporters. I know it's difficult for you because that is your political party. And it's extremely difficult for the politicos, the apologists, the defenders of NDC, those who dream about NDC. Do you believe, have you ever considered that the government you support is on an evil path? And today I'm going to point out why I say so. When I was asked very early about Deacon, I said, no. That was before the election. I said, no. I'm not in a position to make a statement about him. He has not been in politics before. He's brand new. I don't know him. He has not been involved in any group agitating, canvassing, or trying to defend or build any aspect of community group in the country. So he was an unknown entity. But we have been watching the government. We describe him as a fake. And some people take issue with it. We describe him as poor people terrorists. And we advance reasons why we see that. Some of the actions he has taken against the poor of the poor. We call him the master deceiver. We refer to him as a pathological and compulsive liar. We said the prime minister is telling more lies than when horse shot him. But we are worried. We ask the question, is the prime minister of Grenada and the government he leads, are they on an evil path? Does it worry Grenadians that the political leader you selected is evil? Now, all of us have evil in us. Man is good and bad. I heard a story where two bandit with mask in the face, break up my house, and stick up a businessman. The businessman collapsed on the ground. He had a heart attack. One of the bandits immediately administered first aid, beat his chest, well, they'll use other medical language, gave him artificial respiration, and revived the man. And the other bandit called 911. And when they came, they saw the man up, and the two men had marks in their face, and the guns was on the ground. They went in there to kill the man and take his money. But because they realized the man had a heart failure, they saved the man. The police picked them up. They just broke away from prison. They was back in prison. So good people does do bad things. And bad people does do good things. There is evil in all of us. But throughout our lives, we do everything possible to suppress the growth of evil. They say pray every day. They say forgive one another. They say leave it to God. But is Grenadian supporting a leader that is on an evil path? I have been asking this question for months. Not on the radio, but to some NDC individuals. And some individuals that like to speak politics. You know, you have some fellas that like politics. Michael Baptiste, Kennedy Boulal, they love politics. Now, we've been asking the question, and I notice a lot of NDC, they can answer. They seem to be worried. They seem to be worried there is something about Deacon they don't know. So today, let us analyze some of the factors that could contribute, that you would consider it reasonable for somebody to believe that the leader, Deacon Mitchell, and his team are on an evil path. And you have to understand, if there is no check, where will it end? The Prime Minister seems to be, I don't think there is anyone in Grenada now that will doubt that the Prime Minister is a compulsive liar. He just tells lies. And some of the lies are very impactful. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. The Prime Minister is the first time in the history of Grenada that we have a Prime Minister that seems to dabble in the occult. We have always heard of our people evoking the dead. I think in one of Shakespeare's book, you heard that. But in most communities, we hear about people who go and evoke the dead. Some to get money, some to find out what the dead man say. And it always never ended well. And the general public shun these things. And they say when somebody dies, everybody say, may his soul rest in peace. May his soul rest in peace. That's one of the powerful prayers. There is no Grenadian young person that have not heard that. Many of us would know of individuals that people claim read bad book. And people would say, you see him, he read bad book. You see how he getting on? He ain't so Catholic. He read bad book. Now, how could you have a prime minister? You're not talking about a man who is not educated, he's a lawyer. Lawyers are widely read. They read the law. They do, and they are generally well educated because they will do management, they will do psychology, they will do humanities, and they're able to reference scenarios from a lot of different situations. He dabbled in the occult. That must have been worrying for a lot of the Christians who was on stage with him. I'm certain if you tell them what he was doing, the ease, the readiness that this gentleman had to take issue with a priest. He took issue with the priest. And he said morality is a private thing. You're not dealing with Tevin Andrew. You're dealing with a man who understands words. Words are the strength of lawyers, the manipulation of words. We are not taking one thing in isolation. Do you understand why the prime minister is traveling so much? Why is he traveling so much? What is the reason? What is the justification? Why the prime minister is traveling with such regularity? Has he given any explanation? Grenadians have had any report from the traveling? In one situation, I asked the question, who sent the prime minister?
Isles is alive and well. Ask you questions, sing and beat you drum. Make you suggestions, encourage them on to walk the straight and narrow in the land. Politics, religion, and economic issue, regional, international, spiritual issues too, agricultural, environmental, and trending to subject matter. We fear none, we back down. Freedom of speech is enshrined in the land. God, we freedom, jealous and they in Cuba, Russians and Chinese and lucky like we. Rhine and North Korea, wish they had it too. Most of the Caribbean, lucky like we. Studio Galaxy Day for you and me. Galaxy Equalizer, ready like Freddy. And Studio Galaxy 473 in Confero. We freedom of speech is sacrosanct. Make use of it. Let no one.
Yes, we could encourage you again to subscribe to our program, share our program, like our program. This morning, we want you to be open-minded. Don't just be very dismissive without looking at the arguments we advance. Deacon Mitchell is our prime minister. Whether you support the NDC or not is not the issue. If his actions bring positive results, all of us in the country would benefit. And if his action is leading us to a wrong path, all of us in the country would be affected. We particularly are targeting the NDC members because maybe you might be the last to see. Because obviously those NNP and them, any excuse they get to criticize Deacon, they will do it. But sometimes they speak in the truth. So you, the NDC, don't take one incident. Take all of them. List them. I was on the one I was on before. Do you understand the traveling pattern of the Prime Minister? Why is he traveling with such great regularity? It's difficult for the Prime Minister to spend a month in the country. Very, very difficult. Why is he traveling? The Prime Minister has a Minister of Foreign Affairs. And normally, sometimes people are sorry for ministers of foreign affairs because of the regularity with which they travel. But why the Prime Minister is traveling so regular in Grenada? Is he must travel? You remember we constantly ask the question, who sent the Prime Minister? Strange question. Who sent him? The Prime Minister has not answered that. We also say that it seems there is a third party directing the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We saw the passion of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Joseph Andal. You saw the manner in which Joseph Andal evoked revolutionary passion to speak about the Constitution. It seems he did not agree with it. After Joseph Andal was punished, his name was removed on the agenda for a program that he was in. He was not traveling so regular again. On 2 or 3 interviews, Joseph Andal was practically choking. He couldn't speak. Now he's given some lesser rules in traveling, but the Prime Minister continued to travel. Are you not concerned? The Prime Minister is the Minister of Communication and Works, Minister of Security. Ministry of Communication is a big job. The Prime Minister has that. Particularly after a hurricane of the magnitude. The Prime Minister gave Andy Ministry of Communication and Works, and Andy had a new ministry called MIT. From day one, we call on the opposition to disband, to call for the disbanding of that ministry. We call on the unions. You give a new minister, a new permanent secretary in a new ministry, and that minister is brand new to the public service. We heard about all the corruption that is going on. Remember, the Prime Minister was a lawyer. Is this corruption must go on? We consider the Prime Minister as the corrupter in chief. We heard about the blatant acts of corruption in national lottery. Remember, the man that is the preacher put on a lifeguard. The preacher put on a lifeguard. And the preacher turn around as a boomerang and go and complain to the king. He become the whistleblower. This is not Jenny Simon or Real FM or Andrea Sheldon Scott speaking here. This is from within the nucleus of the NDC. They fired the whistleblower. Deacon didn't only fire him, he threatened him, he intimidated him. When he used the police to escort him, that was a message to the other ministers. The manner in which he dealt with Lacrette was a warning and a message to the other ministers. I give you enough money. Don't dare. Is the Prime Minister of Grenada evil? For the first time in Grenada, we have seen a government come in power, and all governments have been showing favors to some of their political hacks or the politicos. All governments. But for the first time, we see a government go at length for retributive justice against people of the lower rank. We're talking about poor individuals who working in caregivers, low rank workers, and strike real fear in them and continue to fire the stubborn ones. Are you not concerned? When you hear members of the NDC, militant members, using language as people should starve or they should pound stone in the river, are you concerned? The Prime Minister of Grenada incited violence. How do you come to terms with that? Members of the National Democratic Congress, how do you come to terms with the Prime Minister of a country inciting violence? Remember, the Prime Minister is a lawyer, a well-educated man. So he's a man who would understand what violence does to a country. He's a lawyer. So if he is behaving in a pasa fashion and inciting young people to use obscene language of the worst kind, in our objectionable language in Grenada, the Prime Minister been inciting people to use the worst one, the one where you curse your mother, the worst language. How do you handle that? You saw the action of the Attorney General. The Attorney General. The Attorney General in Grenada is practically the most pure police. The Attorney General. And you saw the action of the Attorney General disrespecting the police. And she was followed by the little sister from Gov, the sister from Gov, who always want to outdo bad behavior. You listen to Tevin Andrew. It seems that no one within the ranks of the NDC hierarchy could correct these individuals. And it seems they are following the Prime Minister's footsteps. I asked the question, is it reasonable for us to assume that the Prime Minister is on an evil path? Now, for argument's sake, if he is on an evil path, where is he taking us? This behavior we have never seen from any other government in Grenada, from any other politician. The level of corruption that is existing in Grenada now, and the quiet of some of the people who was the custodian of morality, accountability, and good governance. You heard from the Prime Minister's own mouth that he pays for good relationship. He pays for good relationship. You heard rumors and speculation and stories that the Prime Minister and his ministers was receiving expensive goods, expensive gifts, monetary gifts. Are you not concerned? It seems that this gentleman is void of morality. You listen to the public utterances that a politician, a leader of the shepherd of the sheep, classify the sheep that he's shepherding. And some of them are considered as classless and commoners. Now tell me how you could deal with that. You know, you practically want individuals to explain that for you. How a politician, how a civil leader, how a political leader, how a religious leader in Grenada today, 50 years after independence, could consider his own people some as classless and commoners and beggy. We listen to the fact that new bills are introduced in Parliament. Look at the time those bills are pushed in Parliament. In the heat of the carnival. Is that coincidence? In the heat of the carnival, when the majority of Grenadians are distracted, the Prime Minister sneaks in two powerful fundamental bills. One of them to amend the Constitution without obeying the Constitution. They wanted to amend the Constitution without obeying the Constitution. It appears that Francis Alexis surrendered. He threw his hands up in the air. He gave in. He fall over. And he would have disappointed Grenadians in Grenada and outside of the country. Because Francis Alexis, we believe, is the leading constitutional lawyer in Grenada. He has worked with Dominica, St. Vincent, and all the referendum we have had in Grenada on 2 occasions. Francis Alexis was the main man. Now, Francis Alexis seems to topple over. I am very interested in knowing, Francis Alexis, what deal you got. I can't believe I've spoken to you on several occasions. Were you threatened? Were you given good relationship money? Do you see something Grenadian didn't see? Do you know something that you don't know? I remember a co-worker of mine saying many years ago, I stopped swim upstream. Francis Alexis, did you stop swim upstream? The Prime Minister of Grenada was able to get Francis Alexis to stop swim upstream. How do Grenadians feel that after 50 years of independence and the last two periods of the NNP in power, when they were very above board in interacting with the public, they had cabinet, they had a press conference after every cabinet meeting. They had many interaction with the public, and many of the ministers didn't hesitate to answer questions. Well, I always chastise Boeing for not being in interviews more regular. But whenever Boeing come, it seems as though he was hungry for questions. He was practically encouraging them to ask questions. We changed that to the Prime Minister coming in Grenada and says, cancel the regularity of the press conferences after cabinet meeting and decide information is based upon need to know. The two of the journalists I expected the most to raise a ruckus was the photogenic one and the doctor of journalism. Why? Because Deacon named them as two of the objective journalists in Grenada. In the process of naming them, did he silence them? You see, you leave us to ask questions. Because Deacon is a man who seems to be very unscrupulous. And he is ready and prepared to pay money for good relationship. And he has met a treasury that is not broken. We didn't know that. It's them that informed the public that the treasury was pregnant. Money is not a problem for this government. They have money. And maybe you have to remind them. They get 100 million from Saudi Arabia. In addition to meeting a pregnant treasury over 530 million. They get 118 million as a result of the burial insurance package. A number of the ministers, prime ministers, and others would have given them assistance because every government does that. And the sailor passport was exceptional. In addition to that, they claim that they were collecting more money than they projected for. They cut social program. And when they started, over 3,000 people lost their job. Some of the people that lost their job, I know some of them was reabsorbing security and otherwise. So the government is not broken. What they do with the money is another issue. Nothing that they do would seem that they're broken. They've been flying all over the world. And I say they have no scruple Not one iota of morality. That ministers was traveling around with a spouse. And Deacon himself is traveling with his cameraman. No, Deacon brought an individual into Grenada. He sold him as a rich man. Richest man in Africa. We call him Deacon Sugar Daddy. That is the role I believe he played. I don't know if it's he that gave Deacon 1,000 cricket kits. But maybe Deacon can't share it. Have you ever thought about it? A prime minister going away got 1,000 cricket kits, but he have to use it only for his constituents. Did Deacon make a deal with the devil? There are just too much of unorthodox, unconventional factors, strange action by this politician that worries me. That the path he's on is one of evil. I see the government agriculture program, and some people that they refuse to give assistance because the government believes that these people are not very yellow. You know, the NDC like to know the real yellow. So even though you pretend you're yellow, they say you have to be really yellow. And I ask the question why Cocoa Association and Nutmeg Association wasn't smart enough to know you shouldn't participate in Deacon's dictates as who farmer you believe is yellow or not yellow. You already been accused for being agents of the NDC. Well, you should have pretend. So you are able to argue that is not true. But you behave true to form. Now we have to ask the question. If it is true that Deacon is evil, and his evil is permitted to grow among the NDC hierarchies, then where our country going? Then how could you surprise when Deacon want to go after 12-year-old? I see a number of people seem so surprised of the introducing in Parliament. I said it before, the two bills you wanted to sneak in carnival time. One of them is the sexual definition or whatever of children. And that have to do with preparation for Grenada to sell human parts and stem cell and placenta. And they believe that the parents would not give consent. So they're going after the most vulnerable in the society. If that is not evil, then tell me what it is. Is it reasonable for us to believe that Deacon Mitchell is evil and the path that they lead in is evil? How do you explain the level of quietness of the other members of government? It seems they have to get permission to speak. Is it only money? Is it only a case of playing with the devil? We heard stories about the devil on military. They take money from the devil. They say that's why the child retarded. They read book. That's why they're stupid so. That's why they're behaving so. Not stupid. That's why they're behaving like that. They're kind of mad. Now, what hold deacon have on the ministers? Some of them, after deacon said in a public meeting that the only reason NNP getting help is because they don't know who the real NDC is. You see, NDC always have an issue with who the real NDC is. Once they win election, they're not preoccupied with all who supported them. Who is the real NDC? They always prepare to shaft, trick, and punish those who supported a party before and support them then. You see the outrage action of some of the other ministers going after people. How do you explain using drones to intimidate Jenny Simon? And I'm speaking to NDC members now. How do you explain? Do you agree with these things? Are you concerned that if this evil, as introduced by Dick Mitchell, entrenches itself in this country, it's going to have serious, devastating consequences for our people? We can't say we didn't know, You hear the man is a master deceiver. Look at the words that you cannot defend. I have not found no NDC member yet that could defend those words. The master deceiver, an inciter of violence, poor people terrorists, are fake. A simple thing on jab. Look at the level of flip-flopping Deacon have on jab. Have you ever asked yourself what he had in the cup? What he had in the cup? Do you know? Is Deacon a devil worshipper? You know we have devil worshippers in our society. Don't close your eyes, Don't pretend you don't know. Those are wrong, those close around him, we hear him shoo too. Those close around him. Why do you think the governor of the Lagos state was chastising Deacon? Why do you believe he was chastising Deacon? The democratic process gives us opportunity to select the government of our choice. That's a big responsibility. The people in Iran and Russia and China and a number of other countries is not as fortunate as we in Grenada. We could select the government of our choice. So when we select a government, we have to be careful. Yes, we could be tricked, but we must know. We must ask questions. We cannot just follow an individual because you say everybody like him. Why everybody like him? The devil is a likable person too. Why everybody like him? Sometimes this person has not related to you, has not done anything for you, but he's likable. But do you not need a little more? Because politicians have real power. They could change the policy of the country. They could make things so easy to facilitate wretched individuals to take hold in your country. Companies, medical institutes that looking for body parts, Body parts is a big thing in the world. Now, have you ever asked yourself, why deacons set on building a hospital for teaching, for research, for teaching, for tourism? Now, where would he get the guinea pigs? Unsuspecting Grenada? The laws that are put in place, is it preparation for Grenadian? Poor Grenadians. Grenadians that are challenged. Young Grenadians that end up in conflict. Because most likely there'll be free treatment for you to gain body parts and experimented on. You see, he's not answering question. So you don't know. Are you interested in knowing? You cannot have education and don't use it, In yesteryear, when they went to Africa and they pay mirror and bright colors and buy slaves, that's a different story now. You have knowledge of the history that existed before. You had 50 years of independence, and you know. And if you have a prime minister that is so rude and so arrogant, so disrespectful, who believe that he's in a superior class and of a higher intellect. So when he speaks, no damn dog back. Are you not curious that what we might have seen when we voted deacon, we bought a cat in a bag. We got a fake. We got an inciter of violence. We got a master deceiver. We got poor people terrorists. But perhaps the worst is to come. Maybe we get an evil person. That is a message of the devil. All the things we list and much more of the occurrences that happen in the country. Are you concerned? The very first time in Grenada history, maybe there had times before, but now we have able to record things that you saw people trying to practice black magic or obi or whatever, was in St. Andrew's constituency before election. And I ain't talking long. And then you had a prime minister that dabbled in the occult. And then you had a minister of health that went to the hospital after 12 in the night. One worker was concerned. What the minister doing in the hospital? Maybe they come to see somebody. And the minister came, say he was just making a visit. And the senior nurse say, you should send him in the pathological annex. Maybe you want to see Maurice Bishop's spirit. Now, if the nurses at that level could make a statement like that, imagine the ordinary man in the street, because they believe that deacon dabble in the occult. And you don't play with a spirit who died under traumatic conditions, particularly a violent spirit. I remember we said you can't use neophytes to go and dabble with a violent spirit that died under traumatic circumstances and was full of regret. When they asked Maurice Bishop to turn his back, they wanted to shoot him in the back. Most bishops said no. And he decided to face them. One individual was not able to pull the trigger. So another one take the gun from him and spread him down. So that is not a spirit you dabble with. It's a violent spirit that had done great wrong to a lot of people and a very traumatic circumstances that was grieving because his spouse, the mother of the woman that was pregnant for him was dying with him, and he wanted them to save her. You don't dabble with a spirit like that. But Deacon did. There are a number of things that happen in the country that we have to ask the question, is it reasonable to believe that the government of Grenada is on an evil path? What we do on this program is we provoke discussion. We fear no subject matter. We have advanced some arguments here for you. You could refute it. We will hope and pray that we are wrong. We hope and pray that we are wrong. But in the absence of information, and we see the things that are going on, we are concerned that our little country, pure Grenada, Isle of Spice, for the first time, is led by a group of people that have no good intention. So we ask, who sent them? Who is the third party that directing our foreign policy? And is the government of Grenada on an evil path? We encourage you to subscribe to our program, share our program, like our program, and remember, we provoke discussion. Thank you very much.
473 in Confero. We freedom of speech is sacrosanct. Make use of it. Let no one challenge. Blow your shell, beat your drum, tell others. Like and share, subscribe and discuss it too. Let the world know.